Hey, real quick, this video is part of my 12 days of Christmas celebration. And basically, to celebrate the fact that I've been on YouTube for more than a year and the fact that it's Christmas, I'm going to be doing daily videos for a little while so that you guys can enjoy that. However, I also want this to be a bit of a gift for my girlfriend, so I'm going to be not having any of these videos edited so that she can take a break from that for a while. Don't worry, I'm also getting her real gifts. Don't worry about that. After the 12 days of Christmas are over, we're going to take a little bit of a break and come back on January 14th. So look forward to that. Hello Internet, my name is the Golden Stalfos, and today I'm going to be talking about Pokemon, and specifically all of the problems that exist with Pokemon. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Pokemon is an intellectual property developed by Nintendo in the 90s. Technically, legally speaking, the IP is half owned by Nintendo and half owned by the Pokemon Company, which is just a subsidiary of Nintendo, let's not kid ourselves. And the video games are made predominantly by Game Freak, which is ostensibly a third-party studio, but let's be honest, it's all owned by Nintendo. Nintendo owns all of Pokemon the way they wish they owned all of Japan. Let's just be very clear about that. And also, for the record, as of time of recording, and as has been the case for a little over a decade now, Pokemon is the highest grossing IP in the world. Full stop. There's not even competition. It makes more money than Harry Potter, Star Wars, Marvel, Mario. Pokemon makes fucking bank. Not all of that revenue comes from video games, obviously. They also sell an incredibly profitable trading card game, one of the longest running animated series in the world, which frequently spawns animated films. Apparently they do live action films sometimes now. And of course there's endless amounts of merchandise. You know, there's plushies, there's figurines, there's memorabilia of all shapes and sizes, posters, placards, everything you can think of. There's a Pokemon version. There's a Pokemon version of your computer, there's a Pokemon version of your couch, there's a Pokemon version of everything. Just, you can buy Pokemon themed food, like everything. But to a lot of people, Pokemon is and always has been at its core a video game franchise. After all, it's made by Nintendo, the video game people, and it's consistently their highest selling series, even outselling Mario games most of the time. In fact, just to put some perspective on it, according to some brief Googling I did, the lowest selling Pokemon game of all time is Pokemon Crystal, which has a measly 6.5 million sales. The website I found says 6.39, but we'll round up for reason. They don't have numbers for the most recently released game, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, but which would probably be lower since they've only been out for like a couple of weeks, but you know, that's not really fair. And also, given the insane popularity of Gen 4 and the insane popularity of the Switch, I highly doubt it will remain a low number. And of course, low here is being relative. Most game companies would kill to get 1 million sales, right? I mean, there are big companies out there like Nintendo and EA, and to them, anything under 2 million is a failure. But for most people, for most studios, even hitting 500,000 is wild success. So the fact that the worst selling game in the series history is still over 6 million kind of shows you how insane the sales are for some of these games. That same chart on the Pokemon Wiki has the highest selling game being the Gen 1 titles Red, Green, and Blue at 31 million. Many of the entries into the franchise have topped 10 million sales. In fact, most of them have topped 10 million sales. And this is, of course, not even beginning to count how many people have emulated these games over the years, which is a lot. And here comes the problem. These games consistently sell more than almost any other franchise, mostly just on name recognition and not because of any of their features. However, it's also well known and widely publicized that Pokemon is made on a shoestring budget with a tiny team. For Pokemon X and Y, the first title on the 3DS, they had the monumental task of hiring 20 new people, bringing their total staff up to 80. And the game had a grand budget of 10 million. Now, I want to be clear that while those numbers may sound big to people who have never worked in an environment like that, they're incredibly small. 10 million is less than the marketing budget for most games these days. And and quite frankly, most Nintendo games that sell way worse than this have higher budgets than that. It's unfathomable that they could continue to give this series so little attention, so little effort, so little budget. It's mind-boggling. It's also worth noting that whenever they do release a game, they release 2 unfinished games followed by a third properly finished game, although they have been leaving off the third title sometimes. So, yeah. And you might think that making 2 games would require more work, but it doesn't, because they just make 1 game and then they have a couple of things that they switch the values on for the second version, and then they just sell both of them. Now, ostensibly, this is done so that 2 people can trade, and they won't all have access to all the same stuff, so they're incentivized to trade. But quite frankly, that doesn't hold water. Like, the version differences don't amount to enough for that to make any sense. There's like 6 version exclusives each generation, and that's it. And quite frankly, that's not enough to make me feel like I absolutely have to trade or buy 2 copies or some shit. Like, that's ridiculous. It's also not enough to work to justify a second title. I don't know why they do this. It's really weird. It's also worth noting that people have been pointing out the many, many problems with the Pokemon formula and with specific games' implementations of those formulas for decades. And Game Freak never really does anything about it. As far as I can tell, the first time they've made a significant change to the formula was when they made a Switch title, but didn't have the funding necessary to make a Switch title, so they cut out like 90% of the Pokemon and just like reworked everything into this much shallower play experience that no one really super loves. It's also worth noting that in that game, their justification for cutting out 90% of the Pokemon is, that's a lot of shit to 3D animate, and we don't have the resources for that. And in another franchise, I would be like, yeah, animating 5,000 distinct living creatures and, giving them a bunch of different attacks and stuff would be exhaustive. It would be insane. It would be like, no kidding. No shit. No wonder you didn't fucking do that. But this is fucking Pokemon. This is the most profitable franchise in the world. This is one of the most profitable video game franchises of all time. And like, they're just not gonna put any effort into the game? Like what? Like when they made Mario Odyssey, they weren't like, man, we don't want to include a bunch of Mario enemies because that would just be too expensive. No, they fucking did it. And they made a shitload of them playable, and they made like a bunch of areas and shit, and like, I don't even really like Mario Odyssey all that much, but like, it's clear that they had a fucking budget and put some goddamn effort into it. And that game came out before Pokemon and didn't sell as well as Pokemon, like the Switch Pokemon specifically. And so it just doesn't really make any sense to me. Like I don't know how you justify providing a shitty, low-quality product that's underfunded and understaffed right from the get-go when it's so, like, obviously your biggest thing. Like, if Pokemon had as much of a budget as Zelda, we would get much better games. Just full stop. Like, that's how these things work. If you pour enough money and manpower into it, it can be good. And they won't. They just won't. Now, I personally haven't bought a new Pokemon game in years because I hate this shit. I hate it so much. I refuse to support this shit. I absolutely cannot fucking stand to pay money for a low effort, shitty game that I will be dissatisfied with, because who wants to do that? What's wrong with you? Did you get hit in the head? Why? It's like the entire franchise is made under the same shitty conditions as Majora's Mask, and they keep turning, and instead of, actually making something great, they just turn out exactly what you would expect from people who are constantly working under shitty conditions. Like, no shit. Of course the games aren't going to be that good when you don't fund them and don't give them enough people to work on them. Crazy how that happened. How like it takes a team of skilled professionals to make a game. Like the wild, isn't it? And it doesn't have to be like that. Like you can make a good Pokemon game. Fans have done it. There are some great ones out there. There's trash too, but there's some great ones out there. I'm not really gonna call out any names because Nintendo has a long and storied history of bending people over and giving them the DMCA where the sun doesn't shine, but there are a lot of great fucking ROM hacks and shit out there. Please play those instead. It's not like this is the only problem with the franchise, but it's like the source of most of their problems, right? Like every other problem could be addressed if they had proper funding and motivation to like make good stuff, but they don't. So those other problems are never going anywhere. And that sucks. Like it's bad. So yeah, that's the video. I wish that Pokemon games got as much time and resources and funding as like Zelda games, because they could be just as good if they got that, but they don't. So that sucks. Yeah. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next live. Later. Hey, Endcard here. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Like, seriously though, please subscribe. I have like no subscribers. It's sad. If you want to find me on other social media stuff, you can do that at the Golden Stalfos on basically everything. Links to that are in the description, as well as to some charities I like but am obviously not affiliated with. I also have a Patreon if you like me so much that you want to give me money, though obviously only do that if you have money to burn, and if you do have money to burn, they're the charities I mentioned before. They probably need it more than I do. Mad ups to my girlfriend for doing all the editing for these videos. It's a really big help. Oh, and I occasionally stream on Twitch, so follow me there so you don't miss it. I don't have a formal schedule because when I tried to have a formal schedule, I couldn't keep to it, so oh well. Okay, thanks, bye!